Hello, everybody. I have with me Brittinie Tran, and I can't wait to speak to her because one of the things that I am fascinated by is that, well, Brittinie is a pet owner. And one of the things is that she has three children, two dogs, and three ducks. But she's also the host of the top rated podcast, same and president of the nationwide nonprofit Hot Mess Express. She is passionate about creating a safe space for all women and or mothers to feel seen, heard, and free of judgment. Brittinie recently moved to North Carolina after traveling for a year from California, where she lives with her family of five. So, again, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Tell me what it was like to transition from California to North Carolina. You're in the opposite coast now.
Yes, it definitely it's been a transition. I grew up in the Midwest. I lived in California for a few years, and now being on the East Coast, I've kind of been able to experience all the things.
All the things. Where in California were you?
San Jose,
Oh, I
so
love that
Northern
area.
California.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was beautiful, very nice, very expensive though.
California, yeah, that is one of the things about California and New York. But now you're in a beautiful state. You're in North Carolina. Why North Carolina?
I had family who was going to be moving out this way. And so it was something that we had considered. But when we traveled from California to North Carolina, we took a year in the camper. And part of that was kind of just to figure out where we wanted to land. And
Mm.
we tested a bunch of different areas and we landed in North Carolina and we just kind of fell in love.
North Carolina is probably one of my favorite states. After college, I actually toyed with the idea of moving to the Raleigh area, and I ended up not doing it. I ended up going back to Florida. I was right after Hurricane Andrew. This is so long ago, but it really is one of my favorite areas to visit and to spend time in. The people are wonderful, but coming from California, what has been maybe a learning curve of switching from one side of the country to the next?
Honestly, it's much slower here. People just move a lot slower. So living in California for about 6 years, after a year or two there, you really start to kind of fall into this pattern of, you got to keep moving, you got to keep moving. And coming out here, it slows down tremendously. And people are a lot more friendly. People we don't even know are constantly waving to us, and that's just not the same vibes as in California. It's very much
It's
keep to your
very
own, keep
different.
walking. So
Oh my gosh. So I went and I saw some of your content on some of the social medias, and I want to reiterate the name of your podcast is Girl Same, which by the way, I think that everybody should really check out. What was the idea behind the podcast, Brittinie? And because you come with such incredible different perspective, having traveled and done so much in your world. Um, why did you want to start the show?
because I have traveled so much, I've been isolated. I've been the new person. I've been in situations many a times where I don't know anybody. I don't have
Mhm.
friends in the area. And it's really nice having my close friends from high school and stuff who I can, FaceTime, we can talk on the phone. But as far as having someone to just meet for coffee and like have that like actual girls night or something like that, I went without it for a really long time.
Yeah.
And I found that for women, especially mothers, that is something that is kind of universal, that we're all kind of looking for that girl group, and a lot of us just don't have it. And so the idea with it was that I wanted to kind of create a space where you could have that girls night. And to me, a girls night is a place to vent, to chat, to laugh, but it's a safe space. There's no judgment. And so that's
Mm.
the idea behind it. I wanted to kind of offer that to people who don't have that.
Yeah, one of the things that really resonated with me specifically about the podcast and about the work that you're doing is that we tend to think we're so different from each other, but really deep down, we really have some of the same humanness. We struggle with self-doubt, we struggle with the newness of things that tend to overwhelm us. And we really give ourselves a hard time for doing that. Why do you think people are not finding the communities like the one that you have with Hot Mess Express, right? For instance, and with
Yes.
the podcast to really find that we're, there's others that are going through some of the similar things that we're going through.
I think that one of the biggest things that prevents us from putting ourselves out there to make friendships and kind of join a group or create a group like that is that fear of judgment. We're always fearing letting ourselves completely show who we are for fear of not being accepted or being judged or just looked at differently. And it takes a lot. It takes a lot to open up to a friend and really let those walls down, and it's not really until you do that that you form an actual
Mhm.
friendship with someone,
Yeah,
and so I think that that prevents a lot of people from making those connections, like true connections.
yeah. Friendships are so important. There's a study that talks about that someone that experiences loneliness has the likelihood of dying earlier, just like they would of, if they were suffering from heart disease or any other type of disease. And loneliness is one of these things that we really don't understand how deeply it can affect us in life. Was the creation of the group, I would imagine, something that stemmed from being in a lonely spot for you as well?
Absolutely. I think with Hot Mess Express that we have found that while the goal is to help women with cleaning and organizing and
Mhm.
getting kind of their homes in order, we have found that the majority, if not all of the women, are either additionally or mostly looking for relationships. They're looking for that like camaraderie, because anybody can have not anybody, but a lot of people can have people come and clean their house. They might have family who might be willing to do it and stuff.
Mhm.
But the difference with us is that we're offering that without judgment. We're not going to judge your situation. We're just
Right.
there to help, period. And that's hard to
Mhm.
find. That's definitely hard to find, I find.
Oh, 100%. And by the way, I want to kind of unpack a little bit because, we've touched on a couple different things already, but um the Hot Mess Express group, it really is a group that is coming in, and if someone is really struggling and saying, "Oh my gosh, so I'm going to raise my hand. My basement is ridiculous." Like, it is the catch-all, and we have organized it. We rented a dumpster and brought it in and dumped a bunch of stuff. But for whatever reason, after, a couple of years, it tends to be that spot, and it's overwhelming. It is ridiculous. I feel like I could never get it done. And I'm always embarrassed to bring people in to help me because it's like, "Oh my god, what are they gonna think? They're gonna think I'm a crazy hot mess," right?
Exactly.
But you created this group that is helping individuals because sometimes all we need is someone to come and maybe chat with us as we're doing it, right? As
Yes.
we're getting the work done. And again, I love the part of no judgment. Where do the ideas stem from?
So this group, it was created by a friend of mine, Jen Hamilton, and she's just one of those people that just gives. Like she's just such a kind-hearted person. So she saw a need that was not being met. What had happened was a mom on one of the Facebook groups that we were a part of had posted saying that, we cannot afford help with cleaning, but I have
Mhm.
a newborn baby, and for several other reasons, they were just struggling. Nothing
Yeah.
above the norm, nothing, anything that the majority of us don't face, but it was just a hard time and she couldn't get her house in order. But they didn't have the means, but she's like, at this point, we're just going to do it. And so a lot of people commented saying how, oh, here I recommend this person, this person. And Jen kind of pointed out to everybody that like, you're not really seeing the actual need. The need is that she needs a village. Everyone's always talking
Mm.
about this village, it takes a village, but we don't have a village, and so she pointed that out and she's like, would anybody just be willing to come with me on a Saturday for a few hours and just get it done for her? Just go
Yeah.
in and get it done. And to her surprise, several people, including myself, stepped up. And so that very first time we met for the first time in a McDonald's parking lot, didn't know each other, never talked to
Oh
each
my
other.
gosh.
And we were, we assessed the situation and decided everyone was good. And we're like, all right, let's do it. And we went and we got it done. And it felt so good. And seeing the relief on the mom that we helped her face when she came back, we were like, this is something that I feel like could be big. And that's
Yeah.
kind of how it got started.
I think that this is the one thing that when we create this type of community, we really bond over this experiences. And this is the beauty of the group that when you were telling me about it when we first met, I thought it's brilliant. It really is because when we're going through it, we feel we're the only one. And after we're out of it, we're so grateful to know that there's an other side. And it's so great to be able to share with those who are stuck in that muck that there's the other side and that they can keep going, right?
Absolutely. We have one of the things that we always tell every mom or woman that we're helping, because it's not just for moms.
Mhm.
Any woman that we help, I always make it clear that while we're here helping you with your home, that does not mean that our homes look perfect. That doesn't mean we don't
Yes.
also need the help, so
Absolutely. I think that, that's the same thing. I have a friend who a couple months ago and she moved into this beautiful home a few years back now. And she just life kind of happens. Busy sports schedule for children and running around and traveling and just doing life. But there was one area of her home in which she wanted to kind of make it and paint and make it beautiful. But it was a struggle. And it was the one thing that every time she walked past that room, it was like, oh, I need to do something with it.
yeah,
And just for whatever reason, is just the bottom of the priority. And then one day she was going to do it. And a couple of us went over and helped her paint, and it was fun and we had a great time. And
yeah,
now, it just, it's not something that she walks past the room anymore. And gives her, like, that angst, but it's giving her, like, "Oh, look at I got it done," right? And it was a fun time doing it together. And
exactly.
that's what it's all about.
That's exactly. I mean, when we go to these missions, that's one thing we always, when we're trying to encourage people to come, that's like, this isn't like, us just going silently cleaning and leaving. We've
Mhm.
got music going, we talk, we get to know each other. Like, majority of my friends came out of this group, that's the goal, is
Yeah.
we're trying to be the village, and the village is connected. It's not a bunch of individuals who come together for this one thing. Like, we are just all connected together. And it's a good time. It's fun when you're doing someone else's house too versus your own house. Very big difference.
Mhm. I wanna ask you something that, I've seen a lot of my friends, and again, I am child free, and definitely, there's not one thing that is better than the other, but I've seen a lot of my friends experience this, and you did a series for the podcast on this. And again, this is on your Girl Same podcast, and, it is Lost in Motherhood.
Yes.
Many individuals, and that's not necessarily wrong or a judgment to say you're lost in motherhood. But one of the things, especially now, and I'm older than you are, I'm seeing a lot of my friends who are having who had kids that now are in college, kind of find themselves in a place where they don't even know what to do, and they're living with a stranger because the relationship with their spouse was kind of came after all the
Right.
stuff that they were doing for their kids, for their jobs, for everything else, but they lost themselves. So I'd love for you to walk us through, and let's talk a little bit about how to avoid being lost in motherhood, never losing yourself, and how can we create that connection, still having the great connection and being a great mother, but still being a woman first and being our own individual. Can you unpack that for us?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that we did a series. I mean, it ended up being longer than I anticipated because there is so much on this, and I feel like it is becoming more and more of an issue for mothers. For me personally, I think that if you are going to work on not losing yourself in motherhood, that you have to remember that you're a priority. So when we become mothers, everything in society leading up to that has told you that once you become a mother, that your sole priority is your children, that you
Mhm.
are your children, and that is it. You are now mom. And that might work for a couple of years, but it is not sustainable. We
Mm,
are our own person. We also have to have our needs met. We are, just as needy as the other people in our family. We have our own thoughts and our own interests, and that stuff needs to be addressed. So I think that, especially for new moms, that's something that going into it, that you need to have that thought in your head that it's okay to make myself a priority sometimes. It's okay
mhm,
to put my needs first sometimes. And if you can do that and maintain that throughout your children's childhood, then I think, you had touched on your relationship with your spouse.
right.
And that is a priority, right? Your relationship with your spouse should be a priority to you. And so if
Mhm,
you make that a priority, you make yourself then through those years, then when your kids do go off and it's just you and your husband, well, you've maintained, you've taken up new interests, you have stuff to look forward to. And it's not like your whole life has left. It's just that part of your life has checked
mhm.
out.
And we all have these life stages that no life stage is better than the other. They're just different, and we need to learn to accept that. And I think that that's the one thing that people feel like, oh, I don't know about this life stage, and they start to judge where they are. Where I remember my late mother-in-law from my first husband's mom, who I it's very dear to me. She gave me a little plaque, and I still have it, and it says, "Bloom where you are planted." And I remember thinking when she first gave me this, like, "What does this mean?" And then I realized that, we're like, for you, you're planted in North Carolina now.
Right.
It's your opportunity to bloom. And we spend so much time saying, "Oh, I wish I was back," or "I wish I was at." We're not, it's either the past or the future, but never in the moment. And
Right.
that creates so much anxiety or depression in all of us. So I think that this is the importance of having these conversations, and why I think that series was incredibly important. What was the response from people that listened to to those episodes?
We got a really great response from it. So, like I said, I was planning on making it kind of a shorter series, but after the first one went, and we got so many messages from people just saying, this is what I've been trying to kind of put into words. This is hitting home for me. And so then I kind of started just digging into what all that looks like, because you lose yourself in motherhood in so many different aspects. It's not just one place. You lose it in so many different aspects. And as I continued to put some of those out, we just kept getting more and more responses from it. So I definitely think that it was something that touched with people. They were like, this is something that I've been dealing with. And I think it's unfortunately becoming more and more common.
Mm, absolutely. I think that the main purpose of my shows is to really be able to normalize that experience. I think that we rob ourselves of so much confidence and joy in life when we're really in this place of sort of wishing it was different.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Because it's not, you know?
It's not, and, the comparison that we go through at times, I think I talked about it in stories yesterday on my Instagram. As I talked about earlier, my dog, stepped on him, he's been whining. I did not sleep, Sunday night into Monday because he cried all night, and by the way, is it just me, Brittany? But my dog was in the bedroom, on the bed, crying all night long. How come I could hear him and my husband was sound asleep? Does that ever happen to you as well?
It's weird. It's the same with children.
Right?
It's
Yes,
the
everybody
same.
says it's the
It's
same.
weird.
I don't get it. Like, do you, and that last night again he was crying, and finally I'm like, "Hello, I need help here," because
Right.
I just could not go another sleepless night, and he's just in the sound, and he was like, what's going on?" I'm like, "Oh my
Mhm,
gosh."
they
Anyway,
wake up completely oblivious, like in a
yes, thank
deep,
you.
deep sleep. Yeah.
And by the way, he's probably gonna be listening to this as as he edits this show, and we love you. But you're just a male, and I guess that's part of your DNA, and I don't know what
Exactly.
it is, but, Anyway, but yesterday, so when I was tired, had not slept, I have this crying dog, I don't know what to do with him. And I went to sit on the couch with my cup of coffee because I needed a really extra large cup of coffee.
I'm
As I
sure.
sat on the couch, the other two little dogs are in on the couch, and they're all finally we settled in. And I opened Instagram to do the doom scroll, right?
Yes.
I wasn't there to, promote my business or to go uplift other people. I was just there to scroll and
Yeah.
kind of like tune out. The first thing I saw is someone who I know, who I respect and admire tremendously. And she is a business bestie who is a few years ahead of me. And all of a sudden, I saw something really cool she was doing. And I immediately went into the compare and despair. I was like, oh my God, I suck. Like, I can't believe, I will never do that. And then I kept thinking, like, here I was starting to go down this spiral. And then I thought, Julie, good for her, not for you. And by the way, I had a huge day yesterday when it came to my business. I was featured in a national magazine.
That's amazing how
So it's
quickly we forget,
how
right?
quickly we forget. And I think that this is the thing that I want us to normalize. And I think that this is the work that you're doing for women. And this is so important. So I thank you for that, because places like your podcast, the work, and by the way, the Hot Mess is a non-for-profit, correct?
Yes.
Yes, and I wanna unpack that a little bit, but we need places that remind us, "Girl, you're fine. Not for you.
Exactly.
Look at the greatness that you're doing anyway without that." So
Right. I mean, just like with you, you're comparing your down day, right? Your recovery
mhm.
day to
Yeah.
her top work day.
Yeah,
You're comparing apples and oranges, so like if you think
absolutely.
that obviously she takes days off, but she's not
Yeah.
posting. She's not going to share that. You don't share that kind of stuff, right?
No, we don't share, and by the way, I should share pictures of the dishes in my sink today.
Exactly. Because we all have them.
Oh, so glad. And yes, you know what? I talk about it. I love going to bed knowing that I left my kitchen clean so that when I wake up in the morning is there. But that doesn't happen 100% of the time. It
Right. That's
can't.
the ideal.
That's the ideal. It's so fun. What's your ideal? If you had to say what would be your ideal day, what would be the ideal thing that happens that you strive for, but typically it's not feasible 100% of the time, what would it be?
Oh, if I could get a really great day of a day that I feel like I did a great balance.
Mm.
So with work and with being a mom, the balance, I struggle so bad. I mean, if I feel like I'm giving my work too much attention, I'm neglecting the kids, if I'm focusing on them, I should be getting work done. So if I could have a day that I could end it feeling like, hey, that was a really great work-life balance, that
There's
would be
no such
ideal.
thing. It's funny. We talked about my client earlier that I was running a couple minutes behind. Um, this is exactly what we were talking about. We were talking about her calendar, and I was walking her through what an ideal calendar is. But the reality is that we can have this ideals, but we have to be okay that there's not going to be that equal 50-50. It's just a blend. You're going to have, the days in which you show up 100% for your job, and maybe you didn't make the cookies from scratch, or you made a beautiful dinner, but then that meant that you had to like not take another meeting because you were making this gourmet meal, right? That's what life is about, and we need to be okay with that. We judge ourselves for that, and who says that we're less than by not having this perfection?
Exactly. We're not going to be there. None of us are. And it's just as soon as you accept that about yourself and you start focusing on the things you do achieve. Because like in those examples you gave, I'm so quick to think of how I didn't make the cookies from scratch. But
Yeah.
how about you did make the cookies? Right. Because we know
Yeah.
that there's parents out there who don't have time to make the cookies, or don't have the means to make the cookies, but you've created an environment where you can at least do that and
Mhm.
focus more on the positives and not the negatives, because man, you are every at the end of the day, for me personally, I think of all the things I did not get done and all the things I didn't meet or whatever, and we need to something I'm working on in myself, we need to really
Mhm.
try and end the day thinking of all the things we accomplished, because it's a lot.
Yeah. Absolutely. I would imagine that some of the moms that you help and that's you support and come across are single moms. So let's dive a little bit into this because I think that there's a lot of single women, moms, and ladies of all ages listening. Um, they're navigating dating, they're navigating, not having a partner that probably sleeps through the process of the dog or the child crying, but not having a partner, right?
Right.
Um, what is some of the tips in support that you offer? What are some encouraging things that you can say to them?
Oh, Marissa, who does the podcast with me, she was a single mom. She was a single mom for a while. And, that's always something that I just give so much credit to the women who can take on and balance all of that stuff because, I find how hard it is for me to balance with having some more support and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But I think that for single moms that I think they need to take into consideration that they are doing it by themselves and give themselves some grace. Because
Yeah.
I think that when you are a single mom, a lot of those women feel that they need to meet the standards of a two-parent household. You're
Mhm.
not a two-parent household. You're a
Yeah.
single parent household. And so doing the best you can with that and not being equivalent to a two income or a two
Mhm.
parent household is okay because that's not where you're at right now. But that doesn't mean you're doing less and it doesn't mean you're not succeeding.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that again, it goes back to, when I talk about the saboteurs and the judge that we all have. And I think that listening to that judge tell you, hey, you're not enough. Hey, you're not doing it right. Hey, but really we need to stop and say, I hear you, but you're not right. You're not right. Who
Yeah.
says that this is how it should be done? You know?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
We hear that all the time. I think that especially with womanhood and
Mhm.
motherhood, your entire adolescence, you are grown up with what it is supposed to look like. And
Oh, for
whether
sure.
that from the media, from movies, from your parents, your family, whatever it
Yep.
may be, you are told what it's supposed to look like. So every time we kind of veer off that path, it feels like a failure, feels
Mm,
like you are falling behind. It feels like you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing.
yeah.
But it's just like you said. I mean, who made that up? Who
I know.
decided?
Everybody, this whole society sometimes sets us up to really and by the way, when we're stressed and in the brink of burnout, we are putting out that energy that others pick up. And then just like we sync our cycles as women, we're
Right.
syncing our burnout and stress onto each other. How
Yes.
crazy is that?
I know. Not helping. Not only are you not helping yourself, but you're not helping your friends or
You're
anything.
not
Which is
helping them. You're not helping them. Um, Tell me, I have it's interesting because I've been exploring this for myself as well. Um, what is a guilty pleasure that brings you joy that you should do more for yourself and not care about what people think?
well, the one I've been really working on this past year is spending time outside of the house completely without any of my family.
Oh,
I
okay.
feel guilt doing that. I forever feel guilt for doing it. I, can preach it all day long that that is absolutely okay. I know it is okay to take time for yourself. I support
Yeah.
that through and through. But in your own head, it's a different story. I still struggle with it. So
Yeah.
for me, it's being able to go out and fully enjoy that time, that
Mhm.
night, that couple hours, whatever it is, without any of the guilt.
Oh, and
Just
what do you do?
enjoy it.
What's your what have you done? Tell us.
So I'm a really big Taylor Swift fan.
Ooh, I love it. I love it.
And so a friend of mine, we go to Taylor nights where they just play Taylor Swift music.
What? Where is
So
this happening?
I'll send you the
Send it
information.
to me. I need to
I
go to
know.
this. My
Right.
gosh.
It's you got young kids, you got, I mean, it's literally across the board. You got moms, you got
She's
college kids.
amazing to be able to bridge such a gap between ages
Exactly.
and really redefining I don't know how she does it, honestly. Like, she really is an insightful human emotion guru, I think.
Yes. I
And the
agree.
way that she, like, the lyrics for her songs throughout her entire catalog, honestly, it is like Okay. Like, and by the way, if you're not listening to Taylor Swift, she's a poet. She really is. She's a modern day poet, and you have to go in and go check out some of her stuff for sure. So,
Yeah.
what's your favorite album?
Oh goodness. Folklore or Reputation.
Really?
I
Okay.
think
I
those are my
love it.
2 there. How about yours?
You know what? I have to say I'm loving the newest. I'm loving Midnight. I just but I go back to the country as well because that's where she started and
Yeah.
I was in a big country phase back then.
Even her stuff when she was so young, I mean, I couldn't write anything like that.
I
It's
know. I know. It's
amazing.
insane. It's insane. I love that. You know, I as we were talking about going to this Taylor Swift night, I'm thinking, "Oh, maybe I need to do something more like that." I tend to do something that I happen to thought that I had it going on because I thought, "Oh, I'm so confident I can do this and other people should do it." Because I like to go to dinner, take myself to a nice restaurant for dinner. I don't sit at the bar. I
Ooh.
usually will sit at a table and I won't read. I will just sit and have a meal. But now I'm thinking like, that doesn't take a lot of courage. I mean, you're having a meal by yourself, and then if you're not paying attention to the world around you, you're fine. But like going to a music place, even by yourself or with a friend, it's yeah, that's so good. I love it. I
It
love
is.
it.
It's a great, when we go to these, people who go there are fans of Taylor Swift. They know every word. So
Mhm.
it's just essentially being at a concert without Taylor
Yeah.
for being there herself. And it's that camaraderie you get from everybody. We all just are there for the same reason and we
Mhm.
dance and yell and it just gets that all out, I mean, through
Yeah.
the day, as a woman, as a mom, you have to kind of be structured and stuff throughout the day. And so it's just nice to go out and just be silly and let loose.
I love it. I love it. We can unpack so many different things. You've been one of my favorite guests so far. I love
Oh,
unpacking this
thank you.
conversation. We're going to have you back again to kind of unpack this. Um,
Absolutely.
where do you see yourself going with the work of the non-for-profit? Non-for-profits, are definitely creating an impact. How do you get funded? Do people contribute? How can they help?
Yeah, we just became a nonprofit officially
Mhm,
this summer. So we've been going for about 2 years, and for with us, we kind of went backwards because the
mhm,
person Jen Hamilton, who had started it, had a following on TikTok. It kind of
mhm,
took off before we were even ready, So then, come this summer, we became a nonprofit, and we just started kind of diving into like the fundraising. We're still
mhm.
trying to figure everything out.
Okay.
Ideally, what we would love to be able to do, we have 45 chapters across the country right now.
Wow.
Yes,
45
and
chapters in 50 states, right?
yes,
Wow.
it's
That's
so
insane.
exciting.
Congratulations. That's so
Thank you.
awesome.
It's one of those things I say, and I have to remind myself that actually is true. I'm not
Yeah, that's huge.
crazy. So yeah, so we have all these chapters and we would love to be able to support them because our chapter being the original chapter and kind of being tied to Jen makes it
Mhm,
a little easier for us. But the other chapters, they need some more support with getting supplies for missions, cleaning supplies, organizing kind of stuff. And so ideally we would be able to grow enough to be able to really support all of our chapters in that kind of way.
so cool. All right. Well, you're putting all this information out there in this podcast, and we're going to share this. We're going to share the information, how people can get involved, how can they donate, how can they put in some little bit of sweat and tears in there as well to make it happen. Because, when we're doing something for someone else, it's more for yourself, and we're not doing it because we're going to feel good, but we end up feeling good. That's the
Yeah.
byproduct of it, and it's amazing. I'm a firm believer. What goes around comes around.
I am too. And we say the same thing. Half the time doing Hot Mess, it feels very selfish because
Mhm.
I mean, we just genuinely enjoy it. We get to hang out with our friends and call it volunteering. And,
Amazing.
I mean, it's sometimes we have to remind ourselves, that it's not just for us. We're actually doing things for other people.
I
But
love
it's a
it.
good time.
I love it. Well, Brittany, thank you so much for the work that you're doing. Thank you so much on behalf of the women that you're supporting and the lives that you're changing through the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for also for creating content that normalizes what is going on in between our two ears as a woman and how we can kind of leverage the tools and tips of each other's there's wisdom to continue to navigate this thing we call life. So you're amazing. I can't wait to have you again. Will you come back?
Absolutely.
Amazing.
We have
All
a
right.
Taylor Swift episode.
Oh, let's do that. Oh my gosh, that would be super fun. I love it. All right, my dear, make sure that you go and connect with the incredible Brittinie Tran and that you give her some of the social love currency out in social media. You can find her website for Girl Same the podcast. Girl Same the podcast, and we'll have this in the show notes. Make sure that you go into all of the platforms for podcast and you check out the show. You listen to it. You really are going to enjoy it. Follow them on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple. You know it. It's all out there. iHeart, Google. She's everywhere. And then if you go to the website as well, donate. Donate a coffee. Donate $10. That's going to buy some wonderful cleaning supplies, and it's going to make the life of somebody else better. So thank you everybody for listening and for tuning in. And until next time, I'm Julie. And don't forget, go confidently in the direction of your dreams.